Hey folks, it's Carl here and welcome back to the channel. So big news, Canada's home care worker immigration pilot programs launched about a week ago, but there are some key updates you need to know before applying. Now, first of all, not everyone can apply right now, and I'll explain why. And in this video, I'll also cover who is eligible to apply right now and who has to wait. We'll also talk about the biggest changes in the application process and how to increase your chances of getting accepted. So if you're a caregiver looking to work and immigrate to Canada, this is the ultimate guide you've been waiting for. So stay tuned. All right, so let's start with the quick overview of the Home Caregiver program. Now, for those who might be new to it, you'd want to pay attention here. So the program is designed to help address the increasing demand for caregivers in Canada. Now, while also providing a pathway to permanent residency for those who qualify. But the program consists of two main components. So there's a bit of a division. Now, the first part is the home child care pilot, right? And then the second one is the home support worker pilots. So those are the two main components. Now, these two pilots allows caregivers to come to Canada and work in the home child care or home support roles, ultimately offering the chance to apply for permanent residence. So it is important to note that this program is aimed at workers who have specific caregiving experience. So if you are a caregiver, this could be the opportunity you've been looking for to build a future in Canada. Now, the overall stream the overall program also operates under two main streams. Now, the first one is the Workers in Canada stream. So this is for those who are already in Canada working temporarily, either in caregiving or another role. Now, if you've been employed here before and have caregiving experience, this could be your pathway to permanent residence. So you would be applying under the Workers in Canada stream. Then the second stream is the applicants not working in Canada stream. So this is for individuals who are outside of Canada but want to apply to come here to work as caregivers. You need to meet the eligibility requirements, and we're going to be discussing those very shortly, just like those applying to the Canadian worker stream. So you both need to meet the eligibility requirements. But the key difference is that the applicants not working in Canada stream, those are the people that will be applying from abroad. Now, let's talk about the key updates of the program so far, especially if you're looking to apply in 2025. Now, the 2025 intake for online applications is now full. Okay, that is a report from the government. But don't panic just yet. There is still an opportunity to apply through an alternate format. And I'm going to be discussing that shortly down the line. So even though the online slots are filled, you won't miss out if you apply via the alternate process. And like I said, I'm going to be talking more about that. Now, the application fees is something that you also have to take note of. The application fee for the program starts from around 1,500 Canadian dollars. Okay, so keep that in mind. I think the specific figure is around 1,525. So keep that in mind when planning your application, as this fee is non-refundable. Okay, you'd want to budget for this amount, as well as any other associated costs like document translation or medical exams. Now, let's talk about the stream status for 2025. Now, like I said, there are two main streams, right? So the home childcare stream, with that, the online application for 2025 is also full. But like I said, there is still the alternate option available. And then for the home support stream, just like the childcare stream, the online application or the online intake is also full, but the alternate format is still open. So who can apply for the home caregiver program? Now, there are specific eligibility requirements for both streams, and here's what you need to know. Now, first of all, you need experience in caregiving. So whether you're applying under the workers stream or the applicants not working in Canada stream, you need to have experience in caregiving. This could be as a home childcare worker or a home support worker. Relevant work experience is crucial to qualifying for the program. Now, the other thing is language skills. You need to demonstrate proficiency in either English or French. Those are the two main languages in Canada. So the required language test is either the IELTS for English or the TEF for French. So you need to meet the minimum score, which is CLB 4 for the test to be considered eligible for the program. Now, for education requirements, you need at least a high school diploma. Additionally, if you've worked as a caregiver before, you likely need a certification or some training in the caregiving field to strengthen your application. Now, other documents that I can talk of here would be various supporting documents like proof of work experience, language test results, educational credentials, and many, many more. Now, make sure documents are ready, okay, before you apply to avoid any delays. And one thing I want you to take note of is that when the application process or the stream was open for the workers in Canada, it got filled very, very fast, okay? It's just a little over a week and the online intake is already full. So make sure you are prepared and have your documents ready. Now we're going to talk about the application process and requirements in detail. So to apply for permanent residence through this program, you must submit your application online. But if that's not possible, because like I said, the intake is full, then you'd have to use the alternate format. Now the alternate format is most likely the paper-based application. But how do you apply using the alternate format? Now, there are a couple of things that you need to do. You need to send a request to IRCC, and in that request, you have to include your full name, the name of the program or the pilot that you want to apply for, the format you are requesting. So you request for paper, or you can also request for large print, your preferred language, that's either English or French, and then you would also specify how you'd like to receive the application, by email or by regular mail. They're going to send you the application package. So once IRCC sends you the application package, they also add instructions on where and how to submit it. Now, a very, very important note here is that you must request and submit the alternate format application before the annual intake cap is filled for your stream. So even for the alternate format, there is a cap, there's an intake cap. Okay, so if that intake cap is full and you send a request to get the application package, you might not receive it because you'd be too late. That is why it's very important for you to take advantage of this stream as early as possible, okay? Because the alternate format, the request does not guarantee priority and they are still subject to intake limits. So just keep that in mind. Okay, now let's break down the key requirements of this program. Now, as you know by now, you should have a job offer from a Canadian employer before you can apply for any of these programs. Now, the job offer must align with one of the National Occupational Classification, as the NOC of the pilots. So for the childcare, the pilot program, the NOC is 44100, and you must make sure that you check that NOC code and look and make sure that it tallies with the job offer. Also for the home support, it's 44101, right? Now, there are specific requirements for that job offer as well. First of all, the job must be full-time and continuous, meaning at least 30 hours of paid work per week with permanent employment. So no set end date. So it shouldn't be more like a contract with an end date, right? It should not be in an institutional setting, like a daycare, for childcare providers, or a nursing home for home support workers, right? It should also be a genuine offer, meaning that the employer has a real need to hire you, can fulfill the terms of the job, including paying you, and follows the rules and regulations of IRCC and both federal and provincial laws, right? And there are also specific requirements regarding the wage, right? So I'm still talking about the job offer. Now, if your employer is a business or a non-profit organization, they must have been providing the same type of care services for at least 1 year before the job offer was made. So there are some very, very key requirements here, and I just want you to be aware of these, right? The employer must also have a Canada Revenue Agency business number, that's a CRA business number, and maintain a direct employer-employee relationship, meaning they are directly responsible for hiring you, for managing work conditions, and paying your wages. Okay, those are requirements from IRCC, and I'm thinking that these requirements are there so that they prevent people from trying to scam the system. So having said that, let's look at what doesn't count as an eligible employer, okay? Because not everybody can count as an eligible employer under this program. So the employer cannot be a recruitment or placement agency. So if it is a recruitment or a placement agency that's giving you the job offer that you're going to be using to apply for this home care immigration program, think twice about it, okay? Because the requirement from IRCC says that the employer cannot be a recruitment or placement agency. The employer cannot also be an embassy, a high commission, or a consulate, or a person accredited to these missions in Canada, for example, a diplomat, right? The employer cannot be an employer found non-compliant with the program, right? So an employer that has everything intact, right? An employer cannot also be yourself. So you cannot say that you are, self-employed. You are employing yourself, right? That is out. And the employer cannot also be your spouse, your common law partner, your parent, your grandparent, or child. Okay, so that would also disqualify that person from being recognized as your employer. So now for work experience, you must have at least 6 months of relevant continuous work experience, either within or outside Canada in one of the National Occupational Classification, that's the NOCs of the pilot you are applying for. Now, the work experience must also meet certain requirements. Now, the work experience must be continuous, at least 6 months without breaks, and can include a reasonable vacation period. It must be full-time, at least 30 hours per week. It must be gained within the 3 years before applying, and authorized if gained in Canada. What that means is that some work experience may not count. For example, experience gained as a full-time student, self-employed work, or unemployment periods, or long-term sickness or parental leave. That stretch of experience might not be counted. And again, if you're a student that has a limitation on your visa in Canada, and that limitation is that you cannot work, and you actually work, you cannot use that work experience, is unauthorized. You cannot use that to apply for this program, right? So that's what it means by authorized work experience if gained in Canada. And for education, we have already mentioned that the minimum requirement is the equivalent of a Canadian high school diploma, which must also be duly evaluated. Okay, so Canada has listed some agencies that it recognizes with regards to the evaluation of qualifications. One of them is the WES, World Education Services, but there are many others, right? So you may want to explore which one you'd like to use, but definitely get those qualifications evaluated. All right, so now let's talk about proof of funds. So for applicants under the applicants not working in Canada stream, proof of funds is required, right? And currently the required amount for a single applicant is about 14,690 because you'll be applying for PR, right? So there is that requirement of proof of funds. And for 2 family members, the amount goes up, it almost doubles to about 18,000, right? So just make sure you're aware of all of this when you're applying, because you would need to show proof of those funds. So the stream is currently closed, like we mentioned, for the applicants not working in Canada. That stream is not open yet. It's closed, but the government says that this is going to be opened at a later date, right? Now, for the applicants under the workers in Canada stream, they do not need proof of funds, right? As they're already employed in Canada. Okay, now the other thing that we can also talk about here is the biometrics and medicals. So biometrics, that's your fingerprints and photographs, are mandatory for most applicants, right? You would also need to complete a medical examination to ensure you are medically admissible to Canada. Now, there are also specific requirements for the employers, but we are not going to delve into those in detail. But just know that after receiving your application, IRCC may send you a letter requesting your employer to provide extra proof to confirm that the job is genuine and that the employer is actually eligible. So your employer will receive detailed instructions on how to submit this information. So just make sure that whatever you're submitting is on point. Now let's talk about some common mistakes and how to avoid them. All right. Now the first one is applying under the wrong stream. Okay, so one of the more confusing aspects of the application process is choosing the right stream. So if you're already working in Canada, applying under the applicants not working in Canada stream can cause a delay or rejection of your application. Similarly, if you are applying from outside Canada, but you accidentally apply under the workers in Canada stream, it can also lead to issues, right? So to avoid this, double check which stream applies to your situation and ensure that you meet the criteria for the stream you're applying under. It's very, very important. Now, the other one is documentation issues. So just make sure that all your documents are in order. That's one of the big mistakes that many people make, right? Don't be in a hurry. Gather all your documents, and be on time, right? So make sure everything is in order before submitting the application, because missing or incorrectly submitted or filed documents are leading cause of delays, right? Those are leading cause of delays. There are many people that have to resend documents to RCC, and that causes a huge delay in their application, right? So be sure to have everything set before you apply. And then the last one that we're going to be talking about is the genuineness of employers, right? So the RCC is very, very strict about the genuineness of employers who offer jobs to caregivers, right? So if you're applying under any of these streams, RCC may verify that your job offer is genuine. This means that the employer must actually exist. So if somebody is offering you a shortcut, don't take it, okay? Because RCC is going to verify that the employer exists, they have the capacity to hire you, and will be able to provide the work as stated in your application, right? They may also contact the employer directly to verify the details of the job and, ensure it aligns with the requirements of the program. They may even decide to visit the web, the site of the employer. Okay, so just be careful, right? So to avoid any complications, make sure the job offer you're submitting is legitimate. Double check that all job details, including hours, salary, and responsibilities, are accurate and in line with Canadian labor laws. Okay, any inconsistencies in your job offer could lead to delays or worse, the refusal of your application. So before we leave, let's take a quick break and look at some of the frequently asked questions about the home caregiver program. Now, some of these I may have already answered, but I'm going to, go over them in this section so that they are clearer, right? So one of the first questions is, can I apply if I don't have any caregiving experience? And the simple answer is, unfortunately, no. You need to have relevant work experience in caregiving, either as a home child care worker or a home support worker, to be able to apply, right? And then the other question is, how long does the process take? So the processing times can vary, right? It generally takes about several months, right? So the more complete and accurate your application is, the faster it will be processed. Trust me, if you have so many things that are missing in the application and RCC has to get back to you about, it's just going to delay your application, right? But it's going to take some months. It's not going to be the same for everybody, right? So there's no specific timeline to that. Now, the other question is, what if I miss the online application intake? Well, we've already said that if you miss the online application intake for 2025, you can still apply through the alternate format. So don't give up. Just make sure that you apply through the alternate format before the cap is full, right? Because there is a cap on the alternate format as well. And then the other question is, can my spouse and dependents come with me? And the answer is yes. Your spouse and dependent children can accompany you to Canada as a principal applicant. You can include your family members in your application, right? So if you're approved for PR under the home caregiver program, your spouse and dependents can also be granted permanent residency, right? So be sure to include the necessary documentation to prove your relationship with them when submitting your application, okay? And then the last question would be, how do I find jobs or employers in Canada? Well, I must say that there are no specific guidelines that the government has given yet. However, there are many people that have said they've been able to, find, employers or connect with employers through Indeed, through, Glassdoor and other websites. But I'm going to refrain from recommending any website. And the reason is that right now there are scam jobs everywhere. There used to be some credible websites, but even those websites now have scam jobs. I even was a victim not too long ago, but I was able to detect, that this job was a scam job and get out of that situation. So if you're looking for jobs on any of the platforms, some have even suggested Facebook groups and all of that, I'll say that you just be on high alert. If there are any red flags, just make sure that you are able to pick them up very quickly, and just be suspicious of anything that is, you know, a little bit off, because there are many people that will be trying to scam the system as well. Also, I'll be doing my own research to find some credible websites where people not in Canada can, you know, search for the employers and get the job offers. And when I do, I'll be, you know, I'm sharing them with you. And that's everything you need to know about Canada's new home care worker immigration pilots. Make sure you apply on time. As at the shooting of this video, I do know that the alternate application format is still open, but if that changes, then I'm going to be posting an update in the comment section, so look out for that as well. Now let me know, are you applying from inside or outside Canada? Let me know in the comment section. And if this video helped you, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more updates on Canadian immigration and life in Canada. See you in the next one.